Today guys, I'm going to tell you a story about a tournament that I didn't play, I didn't host, but that I sort of casted and co-hosted. Let me explain. Well, first of all, I have to tell you about the guy who actually hosted the tournament. His name is Marco, and he is a content creator just like me at his first steps in the world of content creation. So he decided to host a tournament in honor of his 200 Twitch subscribers. So when registration closed up, the tournament had 8 contestants ready to battle for glory, because yes, no prize pool was offered by the creator. This is how the bracket looked like at the very beginning of the tournament. A classic standard double elimination bracket. Also, since the tournament was made all of 1v1s, Marco decided to spin a wheel every game to decide which brawler was going to be played. Alright, so now let's see how it went. In the first game, contestants Federico and Nico had to play Colt, a pretty solid meta worldwide used brawler in 1v1s. Right from the beginning, Federico started really well, getting kill after kill, and so the game turned out to be a one-way game for him, and the final score demonstrates it 6-1. Alright, so moving on to game 2, a player called Bala was paired against Rick. The brawler they had to play with was Gus. Again, a cool brawler to play in 1v1s. Rick took the lead first, but Bala counterattacked, trying to keep the pace. But in the end, Rick won 4-1. I want you to keep an eye on Bala because even though he lost the first game, he played a great tournament, so watch out for him in the loser bracket. Now things get interesting because the host of the tournament, Marco, was paired against Climax, one of his moderators, in his Twitch chat. They both had to play B, and surprisingly, Marco was absolutely demolished by his moderator with the final score of 4-0. In the last round of 16 was chosen to play Angelo, and the last contestant that still had not played a game were Alice and Diaz, aka Stay Humble. In the beginning, Diaz took the initiative and managed to get a kill, but then the game stalled and nobody was able to get a kill, until in the very end, Diaz managed to get 2 more kills, setting up the final score to 3-0. So far we have covered the winner bracket, but since this tournament was a double elimination, we also have to cover the games that were played by the losers. So for the first game of the loser bracket, we have Nico playing against Bala, playing once again with Angelo. Yeah, I know, the lucky wheel had preferences, but anyways, Nico started the game pretty aggressively, pushing Bala back to his spawn, and it looked like Bala was going to get killed, but thanks to his dodging abilities, he managed to relieve the pressure by killing Nico. From this point on, Bala started playing really aggressively, and managed to get 2 more kills, bringing the score to 3-0. But in the end, Nico managed to get 1 kill, and since he didn't really know 1v1 rules, he thought that to win a game you needed stars and not kills, like in the normal bounty mode. But this unfortunately was a 1v1, and the only 2 things that matter are kills and, in case of a tie, damage inflicted to the opponent. So he decided to camp for the last 2 seconds thinking he had made it, to then come to realization that instead he had lost, and it was the first elimination from the tournament. The second and last game of the round of 16, loser bracket, was played with Gray, an interesting brawler to play 1v1s. So Marco was paired against Alice, and this game, I have to be honest, was pretty fun to watch. Initially, Alice took the lead for 1-0, but Marco didn't give up, and started playing with portals to confuse the enemy, and in the end, he completed the comeback with a final score of 3-1. Alright, so moving on to the winner bracket quarterfinals. Here the video gets really funny, so if you're still with me, get ready to laugh. At this point, Federico, that won the very first game, had to go and could not keep playing the tournament. So just before giving winners a forfeit to Rick, a completely new player spawned from the Twitch chat asking to replace Federico. And even though my first response was to deny, after thinking about it for a sec, I realized that maybe some good content could result from letting him join. So that's what we did. This player, called Sigma, proceeded to play his very first game of the tournament against Rick. Absolute equality dominated much of the game, but at the end, this new player Sigma, and in the bracket known as Just Crush, ended up getting 3 kills in the very end of the game that allowed him to qualify for the semi-final. Then it was time for the last quarter-final between Diaz and Climax, playing Byron, a brawler that requires a lot of precision in combat. The entire game was even, but with a slight difference, because Diaz had a precision advantage, and since he was able to land more shots, he ended up pushing Climax back to his spawn, and managed to kill him twice during the game. This exhausting siege caused Climax to make mistakes that in the end proved to be fatal. Game 9, first quarterfinal loser bracket, Climax versus Bala, both players playing Gray. It promises to be an exciting game, and after studying each other for a while, Bala took the initiative and started pushing. Eventually he got a kill, and then another one, and then another one, only to be killed at the very end, winning 3-1 and qualifying for the loser bracket semi-final. In the last quarter-final loser bracket, Marco played against Rick with Stu. The match started pretty even, until Rick got a kill. It was an exciting game, and Marco really didn't want to lose, so he locked in and managed to get the closest comeback of the entire tournament, 2-1, getting the second kill at 15 seconds from the end of the game, qualifying for the loser bracket semi-final. Okay, so here we go with the first and only semi-final. We have the newly entered Just Crush against Diaz playing with RT. The cool thing about this game is that Mr. Just Crush told us that he was going to play from his mini account, Pulpetozo, and when we asked him why would he play with that account, he said that his main account was occupied. Yeah, occupied. Well, it turns out this guy does account sharing, so Supercell, if you're watching this, please ban this guy. But anyways, for most of the game, none of the two players got a kill. But in the end, Diaz got pushed back and killed twice. So this Just Crush, or whoever Pulpetozo is, qualified for the final. Okay, so from the other part of the bracket, we have Marco playing against Bala, both players using Janet. I'm not really gonna talk much about this game. All you need to know is that Bala won 3-1 and eliminated the host of the tournament, Marco, qualifying for the loser bracket final. So now Diaz lost to Just Crush, and if he now wins, he goes back to the winner bracket to play the final and maybe get revenge. Instead, if Bala wins, he would go to the final, even though he played the entire tournament in the loser bracket. Alright, I have to say this was the closest game in the entire tournament, because the players kept shuffling back and forth and none of them was able to get a kill. And since the rules say that in case of a tie, the player with most damage inflicted wins the match, here you can clearly see that Bala got more damage, and therefore, against all odds, he goes back to the winner bracket to play the final against the sassy player Just Crush. Now, I know you all want to see the final, but before showing it to you, I would like to steal just a minute of your time to tell you about my Discord server. Because guys, Marco inspired me to host a tournament myself, and if you made it this far into the video, it means that you at least sort of liked this video. So if you're interested in playing a tournament completely for fun with no prize pool, join my Discord server in the description down below, and follow the instructions to play my very first tournament that is going to take place on the 28th, 29th and 30th of July, probably at 14 o'clock Central European summertime, but it's still not completely decided, so some changes might occur. Again, if you want to know more, check out my Discord in the description. Alright, so now back to the final. The tournament is about to end, and it all comes down to this. Will Bala, the man who lost the first game and played the entire tournament, in the loser bracket win the entire thing? Or will it be Just Crush, the winner of this tournament? A player that didn't even subscribe as he should have, but that managed to play in the tournament only because a player had to go and we let him replace him. Well, let's find out. Now, I have to be honest, I was clearly cheering for Bala, because it would have been amazing to see him do the impossible. But what is impossible for a reason. And so, as you can see, Bala got absolutely demolished by Just Crush, or whoever this guy was, but wherever, he managed to kill the final with a terrifying score of 8-1. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, I didn't want to see Just Crush win just like you probably, but life doesn't always go as we want, so I'll see you in the next one.
And as always, thanks for watching.